Hey, Hard Times Guy here. We're back. We're going to talk about the Covidites today. The Covidites are coming. The Covidites are here. But before I do, you might remember last video I talked about Henrietta and the twins and the problem with their tattoos and that, and we got a introduction a little bit to the Covidites during that episode. But then we talked about my Aunt Dot and my Uncle Cobb's place there on Highway 54 going into Bloomfield, and I talked about her outhouse, and I talked about the trucks that my cousin had, the trucks and the other metal toys that he had that they kept in an outhouse. And I made reference to this one. It was sitting up on top of a cabinet there in the family room, and thought about showing you a picture of it in this video, but or even in that video. And there might be one in that video. I haven't made that video, haven't edited it yet, but thought while I was at the start of this video, I'd just get that truck and show it to you. It's the kind of truck I'm talking about. You can see that's one of them little pressed or stamped steel trucks, modeled after something in the late 1930s or probably more early 1940s. This one is got the deluxe delivery service decal on the side of it. It's missing the tailgate, but I can put up with that. It's kind of toy that I was talking about that was kept in that outhouse, and just thought I'd show you that. Something that I have always appreciated, and I have one now. The Covidites. Something that probably we've all noticed, but not in the magnitude that some others have noticed that are involved in business interactions with them more than the ordinary person is. It's something that Henrietta made me aware of, and she just goes on about it. She can go on about it all day if you want to sit and listen to her. The Covidites, as far as I know, she coined the term. That someone else may have come up with it too. I don't know, but Covidites is a term that she. And by the way, I got Jay Bird and Ray Bob here today. They come by for some other reason. They're just going to sit here and watch me make this video, and I think they're expecting to get paid, and I didn't tell them they wouldn't. So I guess we might negotiate. We might negotiate something. You gonna leave if you ain't getting paid? Well, stick around. We'll get you something. I'll buy you lunch or something. How'd that be? Okay, they're going to stick around. And they might have something to add to this. I don't know. The Covidites. Your mom called. She first come up with it on account of you. You two are Covidites. She expanded on it after that, but I see. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. Remind me. If I forget to get back to that, remind me. I'll come back to it. The first wave of Covidites that we're all familiar with, the first reaction, and we didn't notice these people. We didn't know who they were to begin with, but we knew they were out there because we could see the result of what they had done. You went to the grocery store and because you needed some toilet paper and there wasn't any. They were the toilet paper hoarders. Those were the first wave of Covidites that we noticed. It wasn't just toilet paper. There was other things you couldn't get either, but the toilet paper was the noticeable one because it takes a lot of shelf space for toilet paper. They come in them big fluffy packages, and you put a dozen of them up there, and it's took quite a bit of space. So you go in the store and you look to where the toilet paper was, and there's a whole empty place there, no toilet paper. And every day you went there and there was no toilet paper. It was the Covidites. They were hoarding toilet paper. And they hoarded, some of them are still doing it. You still can't go in there and see a full shelf of toilet paper. I don't care where you go, Walmart, grocery store, whatever. It's hard to get a large quantity of toilet paper. And some of these people built a room on their house to put toilet paper in. They closed off a bedroom to put toilet paper in. They changed the name of a room to the toilet paper vault to put toilet paper in. The first early sign of the Covidites were the toilet paper hoarders. You know, they bought all the dried beans there was. They bought all the hamburger there was. You couldn't, there was a time you had to get up early in the morning to get to the store to get some of that stuff. But the most noticeable one, and the one that's still the most noticeable, is toilet paper. They're buying, they got this morbid fear running out of toilet paper. The next thing that you noticed that happened, and this was shortly after the first stimulus package came out and people started getting their checks. Now, one of the things that happened was these people that didn't have no job because of COVID shutdowns, they got an unemployment check that had $600 more in it than they was making from working. In other words, they could be on unemployment and make more money than they was making if they worked. A lot more. In fact, some of them, and most of them, they was making more money than they ever made in their life getting this check. Not only was they making money, but a lot of the places that they spent their money, one of them we talked about was Walmart, and a lot of the early Covidites never got past Walmart. I mean, that stimulus check hit their bank account and it was immediately turned over into the economy at Walmart. A lot of it buying toilet paper. But there was some of them was a little bit more far thinking than Walmart, and the next thing that happened almost without people noticing to start with was all the used travel trailers and self-propelled RVs began to disappear. I mean, there was a time not too long ago, if you had one of them, you just took a beating on it. You know, you paid a whole bunch of money for it when it was new. The newness wore off. You got older and tired of using it. And you seen them things sitting around everywhere with moss on them where they hadn't been used in several years, and you couldn't sell one. Nobody wanted one. They'd think, why would I pay $40, $50, $60, $70,000, $110,000 for one of them things when I could just go stay in the motel and swim in the swimming pool? It didn't make sense to people anymore, and they quit doing it like they used to. But the Covidites saw it coming. They saw that them things were going to be useful again. They were going to let you do things that you couldn't do without them again. So the travel trailers and the RVs that were out there on the used market sitting in somebody's yard with a for sale sign on it, been sitting there 6 years, started out at way up here the price and was way down here now. Now you drove by there and you didn't notice the first couple of times. Then one of the kids says, hey, what happened to that RV that used to sit there? And you think, well, it is gone. I don't know what happened to that. Maybe, you know. So that was the second and the bigger thinking Covidites buying them up. After they got scarce and people started realizing, then other people started hunting for them as a way to make money on them. But the people that bought them up to use them were the early Covidites. And what they did was, the places that they used to go and the ways that they used to spend their money, they couldn't do it anymore. A lot of these people, they couldn't wait till the weekend to go to the bar, spend all the money, go to the casino, spend all their money or gamble all their money away, and then Monday morning go back to work, or if they didn't have a job, they had a lot less to do it with, but they spent their unemployment money the same way. Now they got more money than they can think about it, and they ain't got nothing to do. So they started doing different things than they used to. And what caused this to come to the attention of Henrietta was she was, unbeknownst to her, going to be one of the benefactors of this new order of things and of this new group of people called the Covidites. Now, and some people in her business benefited and some people in her business actually suffered, but they were in for a boom in their business, and their business was renting package vacation deals. The 3-day weekend or 4-day weekend package cabin, or the series of cabins or series of groups next to some public, sometimes big time, sometimes small time, tourist attraction where people would go to get away from whatever it was in their life that they need to get away from. And most of these people were city people. They would go somewhere to a getaway, to spend a quiet long weekend or a quiet week away from the hustle and bustle of their normal life. Well, the Covidites began to, some of these Covidites never done anything like that in their life, never thought about doing anything about it. Like I said, they got a little extra money, they couldn't get past Walmart. If they got a little bit more extra money, they couldn't get past the casino or the bar. And now a lot of those places, Walmart's still open, but they made them wear a mask. A lot of them didn't want to wear a mask. I mean, you can't smoke through a mask. You had to try to smoke, They began to look for a place to do what they wanted to do, and they started, and they got online, they started finding these places. Some of these places were around big places. Deadwood, well, the big attraction there close to Deadwood is, of course, the presidents all on the thing. What's that called? The Mount Rushmore. The Mount Rushmore area. There's Deadwood. There's the what do they call that? The steeples or the icicles or something. The granite rock form. The Badlands. The big motorcycle thing that's out there, Sturgis, those kind of things. People started looking online and finding those kind of things, and those are big events. Branson, Missouri is another area like that. The Smoky Mountains around Dollywood, another area like that, Gatlinburg, and then Civil War battlegrounds like Gettysburg and places like that. In our area, local small-time places, or Marengo Cave, or in the south in the mountain area, places like Carlsbad Caverns and places. They started looking at all these little places to go to, and they got extra money. They can't go to the bar with it, so they started renting these little places and going there. And at first, it looked like to the people that own these places as, whoo, look at this. It's a boom. We never had a year like this. We got people fighting to get reservations at our place when we used to have to run specials and advertise here and there just to get, 3 out of the 4 weeks, or to even 50 or 60% of our vacancies full. Now we got people scrambling and bidding against each other to come to our place, and they looked at it as, wow, this is cool. Until they started recognizing that these ain't the same people that used to do this. This ain't that little uh, couple from St. Louis that come down here uh, coinciding with their honeymoon every year. This isn't that young couple with the dogs that come here, him and her with her sisters, to sit and look at the mountain and paddleboard on the lake and listening to the folk music in the evening. This ain't them same people. This is a different bunch of people. And one of the things that they don't pay no attention to is our rules. Henrietta has such a place as that. She's got one of them little places. Here in our area, we got a state park called Spring Mill State Park. And it is a really nice little state park. I don't know how many acres it is, but it's all mostly like virgin timber acreage. There's 3, 4, 5 big cave systems on the place where you can go actually in a cave that's big enough to walk around and look in. Some of them have boat trips that go through them. There's hiking trails in the park that go to those. The central theme of the park is a pioneer village, and what they've done, got an old grist mill there with this big water wheel, and water runs off the stream on the hillside and turns the mill. They grind meal for you there. It's the central, the mill itself is the central part of the park, but all around it is like a pioneer village where they've taken either cabins that were already there around that mill, or other cabins have been donated and dismantled and moved and reconstructed in that park area around that mill, like a village from the early 1800s. And it's just a cool, neat place with lots of things to do. They have a horse barn where you can rent horses and go out on the trail. They've got an inn where you can stay, and there's a nice restaurant there. They've got picnic areas, and they got this stream that runs all through the park. Spring Mill Park, Southern Indiana. If you're ever in Southern Indiana, near Mitchell, Indiana, in Lawrence County, south of Bedford, go to Spring Mill Park. I promise you a good experience there. Well, Henrietta owns a little farmhouse with a barn, a couple other outbuildings. I don't know how many acres she's got, maybe an acre and a half. Could be as many as 4 acres there, I guess. I don't know. But she owns that little place, and it's back on a side road past Spring Mill, actually back behind Spring Mill. And she advertises she made her a website, and she put all the amenities that I just described to you that Spring Mill has to offer. She put them on her website as if they're part of her place. Of course, when you get there, if you got half a brain, you know that that's the state park, not her property. But she don't tell you that before you get there. And so she does get lots of bad reviews because of it, but occasionally you can enjoy everything that she advertises in her website, but you got to go around the road to the highway and back to the entrance of the park and pay to get into the park, and then, to do all that. But you do have a place to stay that's close to the park for not very much if you rent from her. And she had lots of people that would come from various places sometimes and rent there. She had a lot of them. She probably would get 1 or 2 a month that would come and rent her place. And the ones that wasn't too bright never did catch on. She's got actually the fence between her and the park borders her place, and she's got one of them little walk up a ladder thing to a platform and walk down the other side thing right over the fence there. And she's got brochures and maps of the trails in there. That's one of the things that the people that didn't catch on, one of the things they complained about, boy, sure is a long walk through the woods to a lot of that stuff there. You'd think you could have a way for us to get there a little better than going over that fence and walking all that way. But there's some people that did that and never even knew that they were on the park, and she didn't have enough of them for her to ever have too much of a conflict with the park coming along saying, hey, how'd you people get here? What are you doing here? Until this year. And the Covidites. Because what started happening to her was she would get somebody that would book her place, and they would book it for like 3, and then she'd get calls from the park. What's going on back there? What's happening? And she'd go down there, and there were the Covidites. There was the 3 people that rented from her. There was 4 RVs parked on her 2 or 3 or 4 acres, whatever, or 6 RVs, or at one time she had 19 RVs and travel trailers parked there like it was a camping site park, and they were all sitting there having a party and drinking and dancing and playing music and going over the fence into the park, and they got so many of them over there. The fact the time that they had 19, one of them drove the daggone their camper not the camper, what do you call it? What did I say they were? Mobile home. One of them drove the mobile home right through and over the fence and flattened the fence, and they had 4 or 5 of them out there on the park. In fact, they was trying to, it's a fair piece to the nearest road, but they tried to make a roadway from there to drive the RVs to the nearest road. They got hung up and couldn't get, that's what got the park rangers out there, and the next thing you know, they had the county sheriff out there and everybody, and comes out, and they all come. The Covidites, that's when she started calling them the Covidites. She, all right, yeah, remind me again, just a minute. The Covidites come, and they broke all the rules, and she started trying to change the rules to keep this from happening. Finally, she just gave up. She said, I can't change the rules to keep this from happening. What I'm going to do is, I changed my website, started advertising it as an RV park. And I started, instead of charging them X number of dollars for 3 people to come, and then they come, and there was actually 15 of them. She said, I started charging them for primitive camping fees. Of course, they all screamed and carried on about it because primitive camping was usually a lot cheaper than what she was charging, but they didn't have all the amenities that the state park had. And but that's where that term come from, the Covidites. And she started talking to some people that she knew that had similar businesses that she did. In fact, she had a cousin. She had a cousin in, I don't remember the name of the place, some little place in West Texas. It's in Frio River Valley, and that's another one of them kind of places. The Frio River, a lot of people, it's a nationally known place to some people that like that kind of thing. They go there and they wade in this cold river, and they have little boat trips and little hikes and stuff, and people from the big cities in Texas go there and enjoy the mountain view and the hills that they don't have back in the plains of Texas, and they enjoy the getting away from things. And Henrietta had a cousin, had a place like that there, and she had the same experiences, where used to be a quiet little couple and her grandson come and stayed and left them a fruit basket and a half a dozen roses and a nice note when they left, and give them a good review. Now they go over there and they, instead of having 3 people there when they thought they had 3, they had 15, and they left them 60 empty beer cans strung out all over the place, and used diapers and toilet paper and cigarette butts and who knows what else. The Covidites, that's what you call them, the Covidites. Now I got to get back to these boys because they're sitting there, they're antsy. They reminded me. You heard me tell them to remind me in a minute. They've reminded me 6 or 7 times. Reminded me of my oldest great grandson. He wants to. He asked him something. He said, I don't know, maybe. And that's the wrong thing to say. What you really got to say is no, never. If you ask me again, I'm going to cut your head off with a hatchet. that's the kind of answer you got to get them to shut up, or else they, every 15 seconds they're going, hey, what about? Well, that's the way they've been about reminding me. Their mom called them Covidites because they got one of the, what'd you owe her money for? All kinds of things. Rent. What? Oh, before she started doing that, you guys used to rent that house from her? That's where you lived? 15, 18 years ago? And you rented it. Kinda. You rented it, but you never paid no rent. I see. It's your mom, right? Yeah. Why should she? Your mom's supposed to give you a place to. How old was you? Yeah, you shouldn't have been self-sufficient by then. 42 years old. Yeah. They used to rent from her. They didn't pay the rent. She said that just like the Covidites. They get this $600 check, but the government told them they're going to do something about the rent too, so they didn't go pay their rent. They didn't go pay their bills. They don't pay their water bill. They don't pay. Just like these two. That's what their mom said. Covidites. She said there's the original Covidites before we even had COVID. Okay. Well, that's kind of a rant, and I'm not even going to try to. I'm not going to try to do anything else with it. You can probably think of other examples yourself and your own lives about people like these. And I've heard other stories too. Before I heard this, but now every time I hear one of these stories, I think of that phrase Covidites and chuckle to myself. Don't bother to tell them about it, but you hear all kinds of stories that remind you of these people that you never used to see before.
Hey, good morning. Well, it's been a few months since I had a haircut. Still can't go in and walk in and get a haircut at my barber shop. Got to make an appointment, so. Coronavirus guy. Or hard times guy. It's coronavirus haircut. That's what Betty has to look at every morning before I get straightened out.